Hi everyone, welcome to Eye Care with Dr. Bartles. I'm your host Noreen Zarell, and to my right is Dr. Tad Bartles. Hi doctor.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
And I'm going to start off with a question that I didn't get to ask on the first program because we ran out of time. And we were talking about infant development, and my question is, and you see this happen in a lot of restaurants and all over, is it a good idea to hand your baby your smartphone?
Well, from a parent's point of view, it's a great babysitter. But I do not think at all that we are doing any good to this child by letting them handle a smartphone for a variety of reasons. But reason number one is this child's eyes are still developing. And because of that, I think that the smartphone itself is going to be way too intense for the child. But we're forcing the child to hold something at an extremely close distance, which puts a lot of stress on the visual system that is most likely not properly developed yet. And we can be inducing some erroneous habits, we'll say. And also, what we have learned through research recently is that the blue light, the high energy blue light that is given off by screens of all devices, okay, it's not just smartphones, but iPads and flat screen televisions, okay, it gives off blue light, which can be damaging to the eyes in the future. So we know that, and I'm going to quickly touch on this, but we're going to go much deeper as time goes on with our series. But blue light can cause some issues with sleep. Okay, it can cause dryness issues, but it can also, over time, build up some chemicals inside the eye that may contribute to macular degeneration.
Oh, wow.
So you'll find any eye doctor is not a fan of seeing a smartphone in a child's hands. And I know that on television for a while, with one of the ads for one of the new phones, they had a little infant looking at that, and I think that was just awful.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is if you give an infant something like that to put in their hand, how long will it take before they drop it?
But now some of the phones with the cases and all that, I don't think that's a problem.
Oh, okay.
But unfortunately, it keeps the child quiet.
Yeah, it does.
And there have to be, there's other ways of doing that.
There is, definitely. But yeah, so it's not good in a young child with the blue light can cause more problems. Interesting. Okay, so in this segment, we're going to talk about the child as the child gets older and what's needed to get ready for school.
So in our previous episode, what we did was we discussed vision development and what happens with the eye from birth up to around 5 years old. And so now this 5-year-old child is going to get shipped off to school. Okay, I mentioned before that 80% of what is learned at the lower grades comes through the eyes. And so we have to have good vision. We also said before that if a pair of eyes is not working well, learning is going to be affected, social attributes are going to be affected, athletics is going to be affected, athletic performance. So we have to have these eyes working well. So let's discuss what I feel are some of the requirements for getting the eyes ready for school.
Okay.
Okay, first is going to be vision. Okay, we have to see. We have an eye chart behind us here. Okay, there's a certain level of vision that is required for school. Okay, the way it is measured, the standard eye chart in screenings, okay, before a child enters the school system, either the school nurses or perhaps the Lions Club or some other organization or maybe all of the above are going to screen a child for vision, okay, which means we're going to stand the child up in front of some sort of an eye chart and say, okay, what is the smallest letter that you can recognize. Okay, for lower grades in the great state of Connecticut, we want a child to see 2040 or better. For upper grades, from say a grade 5 and up, we want them seeing 2020.
Oh.
And so anything less than this is a referral from the school nurse, sent home to the parent, and then hopefully the parent is going to bring the child to one of us so we can see what's going on. And I think let's talk a little bit quickly about what's the difference between a screening and an eye exam, because there is.
And why the difference in the lower grade of the 2040, and then you go up to a couple of more years along, and then it's required to be 2020?
Well, I think that as the child gets older, visual requirements are a little bit greater, so we want a little bit better acuity. But the origins of school screenings were to detect amblyopia, okay, which is lazy eye.
Right.
Okay, and so what the school nurses would do would be to check and see, okay, does this eye see, does that eye see? To make this work, you have to check one eye and then check the other eye. And a lot of times we find kids slip through the cracks because one eye is not blocked when you're checking. Okay, that doesn't, not supposed to happen anymore, but it has happened. Okay, and a child can fall through the cracks quite easily. Or children are very clever and they can fake it.
Do you ever run into where a child will try to very quickly memorize the eye chart?
That happens.
It does.
It happens. It happens with adults too. Okay, one of the technological breakthroughs in eye examinations is most of us now have computerized eye charts. And what that means is that I can calibrate the thing very accurately, but also I control what I'm showing my patient.
So you can switch it out.
I can switch it out. If I even think there's a problem, we'll just change the eye chart.
Huh?
And the other nice thing is that, like you see behind us, okay,
Yeah.
we have block letters.
Yeah.
Okay, younger children may not know their letters.
That's true.
And so
That's true.
we can change it to maybe numbers. We can change it to little pictures. Okay, where
That's
a
interesting.
child can't tell me that this is a W on that screen, but they may say, oh, gee, that looks like a Christmas tree. And as long as we have the images the same size, we can get a good idea of what this child is seeing.
Very interesting. I didn't know you could do that.
Okay, so we always, when I'm doing an exam on a child, we would sit them down in the exam chair. One of the first questions is, do you know your letters and numbers? And some kids don't. And so,
You switch to...
yeah, we still can check them. That's not, not a prerequisite for an eye exam, is literacy.
Wow. Very interesting.
So in a screening that
Okay.
is done by the pediatrician, school nurse, and these are very, they're valuable tools.
Yeah.
Okay, they are going to check a child's distance vision. Okay, 20 feet and beyond, or that equivalent. Okay, and when vision screenings, the whole philosophy was developed, it was the classroom of the 1950s. And a lot of people who are probably watching this program have no idea what I'm talking about, but enough of us do remember that we sat in rows of desks in a large room and we looked at the teacher, and the teacher wrote on the blackboard. Okay? Mm-hmm. If you go into a classroom now, you'll find that kids sit together, they work in groups.
Yeah.
The teacher may have a paper board that she writes on. There'll be a smart board in the classroom. Okay? But kids work in groups. And so the 20-foot philosophy, to me, is not as important as what a child can see at close range, because the emphasis is on reading. Okay? That's what education is all about now. So if a child can see 20/20 in the distance in first grade, I don't care as much as what I want to know is what this child can see at close-up. Because if there is a reading problem where the child cannot focus for more than 10 seconds on a page, there's going to be problems. Okay, a screening, if they're going to check a child's close-up vision, you know, for 10 seconds, You know, we can take our glasses off and we can read for 10 seconds on an eye chart, but it may
Yep.
not be very good after 10 minutes of this.
Right.
Okay, and 20 minutes sustained silent reading in classrooms and 20 minutes at home every night is what is recommended. Okay, if a child is straining, he's not going to do it.
That's
okay,
true.
if it hurts, you're not going to
That's
do it.
true.
And another thing,
Or if they can't see what they're actually supposed to be reading, they get frustrated.
very frustrating, and
Yep.
they're not going to do it.
No.
Okay, so we have to decide, can a child see? Okay, so that is important. But then there are other things that you have to do, okay, or should be doing. Okay, we have to decide, do the eyes work together? Do they point in the same direction at all distances? Okay, and this is going to lead to depth perception.
Okay.
Okay, if you're living in a flat world, okay, you're not going to function as well, maybe socially, maybe athletically, maybe learning-wise. But I have been told that a lot of school systems, and this I think is occurring more out west because I think technology starts on the West Coast and works its way this way. School systems are relying on 3D technology
Oh.
to teach kids, and they feel that children can learn better if certain things are done in 3 dimensions. To make this work, both eyes have to work together. And if the eyes are not pointing together, they're not going to work together. You're not going to get 3-dimensional vision. You're not going to get your depth perception. We may have some problems with that.
And this is where the lazy eye comes into play.
Yes,
Because the
definitely.
lazy eye is not going to work.
That's right. And I think we ought to clarify, the definition of a lazy eye. Okay, amblyopia as we call it. Okay, lazy eye to
Okay.
everyone else out there. What it really means is that one eye does not see as well as the companion eye. Okay, there are lots of reasons that one eye won't see as well as the companion eye. The most common is that they don't point in the same direction. But there are other reasons that will cause this also. Okay, so it's not just because the eyes aren't pointing straight that we can have a lazy eye. Tracking is a real important thing. Okay, and what tracking means is that you take your eyes and you follow along a line. Okay, so
Okay.
if you're going to read, okay, we read from left to right, and then we go back left to right down the next line. Okay, if the eyes cannot efficiently follow where you're going, again, it's going to become very frustrating to try and read. And we know that frustration leads to saying, I'm not going to do this. Convergence is another function that is extremely important. Now, what convergence means is that we can bring our eyes in to point at something close. Okay, so when we're looking in the distance, we're looking at a television, we're looking out the window, our eyes should be parallel. Okay, and when we bring something up close, our eyes have to converge. Okay, if they're not converging, you can run the risk of seeing double. And double is very frustrating.
Yes.
Okay, and again, double leads to not wanting to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, or double vision leads to the brain is very, very complex, and it makes adjustments for us sometimes. Okay, and like I said before, we learn to see by trial and error. Okay, and not all of us get it right. But if we are seeing double, the brain may say, well, I don't like one of these images, so I'm going to shut it off. And it can do that. And so the eye is still open, but it is just not sending its message up to the brain correctly. Then that's called suppression, by the way. But then again, that can
okay.
lead to, again, amblyopia. And if the brain learns this and it's so ingrained, it is difficult to break that. And so we have to find out about this at a young age.
Wow.
Visual memory is another developmental thing that should have happened by the time we're entering school. And what visual memory means is that you look at something
And you
and
know
your
what
brain
it is.
stores it so it
Yep.
knows what it is. Okay, if you have the word cat, C-A-T, okay, we want the brain to be able to see that and say cat. And we don't have to think about C-A-T, what is that? Okay, we know C-A-T is a cat. Okay, so that is very important, and that has been developing from birth, okay, We remember our parents' faces, okay, at 1 month, 2 months old. Okay, that's
Right.
visual memory. They suggest that memory games played with toddlers is a good way to increase visual memory. Matching games, things like that. Another real important skill is what we call accommodation. Okay, and what that just means is being able to change your focus from different distances. So you may be looking at your teacher's face while she's talking to you, and then she's going to say, turn to page 45, and you have to go pick up your book, turn to page 45, and now you're focusing.
And you go from 20 feet to 2 feet. Or something
or
similar.
wherever else
Yeah.
in between.
Right.
Okay? And so accommodation and focusing skills are very, very important. If they are not going to work, say if you cannot bring your eyes to focus in at close range, that's going to create a problem, both for
Yep.
adults and for children.
Yeah.
Okay? If there's too much accommodation, you're going to overfocus, and also the muscles may get locked in to a close focus, and then you look off in the distance, things are blurry, and uh-oh, now we have somebody who's nearsighted. And so those are skills in getting the eyes ready for school, and those are the things that we're going to look at in a youngster, as opposed to just saying, okay, can you read the eye chart? Again, reading the eye chart is important.
Right.
Okay, and any bit of help that we can get in determining whether a child has a problem, you know, we're going to take that help. So we're not going to say that we should have the market cornered. Everybody should be working together, all disciplines of healthcare, so that the goal is taking care of the child.
Are there any computer programs that can help for a child?
We don't think so. You know, computer programs are touted as, oh, we got these educational programs, or we can teach hand-eye coordination. Think of sitting there with a controller or with a mouse. You know, how much do you actually move?
Yeah.
And you're focused at the distance of the display.
Which should be more than 2 feet. However, we know that that's not the case.
Well, with the traditional computers, okay, back when computers were a cathode ray tube, you know, this big monstrous monitor that weighed 1 million pounds, we said 21 to 24 inches was the ideal working distance. Then laptops came up,
Yep.
okay, and then tablets,
Yep.
and now smartphones. Well, today's smartphone, the smartphone that I had when I walked into the studio that was taken away from me, probably has more computing power than the computers that went to the moon. And when you look
Wow.
at that and you say, wow, that's scary, because this is this little thing here. It's fantastic.
Yep. But in order to see what's on it, you have to hold it.
You have to hold it close. And even I've noticed that in my exam room, when we're doing examinations now, you used to hand a patient a near chart for reading
Yep.
vision. And we used to say, hold it for your normal reading. And now I've started to catch myself, especially for younger patients. I'll say, hold it where you hold your cell phone. Okay, and to a younger patient, and again, we're going to talk about this in the future episodes,
Yeah.
how they use their eyes, that's more important than reading. People don't read so much anymore, the way you and I think of people reading.
Yeah.
Again, this is for our next episode, but one of the things we try to do at our office is kind of be in tune with our patients. And we've started this focus group where we have a bunch of high school kids that come in, and we buy them pizza and sodas, and we sit down and we talk. And we ask them about different things. And it is, please excuse the pun, it's eye-opening as to what we have learned about
Yeah.
these kids.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you don't start doing this, then you know we're not taking care of our patients if we don't do that. So anyways, let's
No.
get back to children, because we're supposed to be preparing these kids for school.
Okay.
Okay,
How many parents do you think actually read to their children, and when would they start? I know
when-
I read with my grandchildren, so.
Reading should have begun before birth.
You know, somebody told me that, and I know someone that did do that.
The old school of thought was, but new school of thought is, oh yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think reading should be done as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that my wife read constantly. And my kids were quite old before reading as a family stopped. And I think that's quite beneficial for a variety of reasons, not just for the eyes, but for also the continuity of the family.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of reading. And people will say, well, can I not read a book? Can I read from a device? And you're not going to say, I'm certainly not going to say no, but you have to understand that from my personal observations, okay, using a device as opposed to a book, you're going to be holding things closer. You're going to put more strain on the visual system. So we have to be careful with that.
Not only that, but when you're reading with the child gets more involved in the book by the bright colors, by whatever the character is that's in, and actually wants to turn the pages, can't wait to see what's on the next page. So the engagement is a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Oh, most definitely.
Yeah. So there's a big plus to reading from actual books. And it doesn't take any more time.
Mm-hmm.
Reading from an actual book, you let the child pick the book.
Some people like the feel of the pages.
Yes. Yeah.
Lots of people have told me that.
Yeah.
But people still, technology is technology. Recently, we attended a conference on the West Coast. And so obviously we had to fly out. And on the plane, they announced just before we took off that the Wi-Fi broke and there would be no Wi-Fi on this flight of 4 hours. And I thought panic was going to ensue because everybody, they didn't know what to do. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I had a book.
So you were all set.
I made out okay.
Wow.
So we've covered that, eye exams are important.
Yes.
Okay, we cannot just rely on screening. I think another important point is we cannot rely on your child to tell you that they're having problems because children, number one, are never going to volunteer that they have a problem.
And they don't know.
That's the other thing. They don't know because they have nothing else to compare it to.
Right.
So if they have learned by trial and error to do it wrong as opposed to correct, okay, we have to find that.
No. Well, we're almost out of time again. So this might be a good time to end this segment. And thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.